The rain pounded against the window like an urgent messenger, desperate to breach the barrier separating Sarah from the world outside. Nestled under her blankets, she felt the storm mirror her inner turmoil, a tempest of emotions roiling just beneath the surface. Each droplet seemed to echo the chaos in her mind as she recalled the whispers and stares that haunted her at school. Everyone knew she was the new girl, and with that title came expectations, assumptions, and above all, isolation. Why can't I just be normal? She muttered to herself, pulling the covers tighter around her as if they could shield her from the judgment of the world. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to sit up. The soft light of dawn broke through the clouds, illuminating her room with a gentle glow. It was time to face the day, even if it felt like stepping onto a battlefield. Today wasn't just any day. She had a group presentation for school, and anxiety churned in her stomach like a wild beast ready to pounce. Suddenly, a deep, familiar voice broke through her dark thoughts. "You know, hiding under the covers won't make the storm go away," Jake said, leaning against her doorframe with a teasing smirk. Her stepbrother had a way of appearing at just the right moment, shifting her focus and somehow managing to bring a hint of warmth into her otherwise dreary morning. "Haha. Very funny," she shot back, trying to muster a playful tone. Despite her annoyance, the sight of him eased the tension in her stomach. With tousled hair and a mischievous glimmer in his eyes, Jake always seemed to bring an unexpected spark into her life. "Coffee?" he asked casually as he ambled further into the room, his presence filling the space with an aura of ease. It was almost magical how he could lighten the heaviest of mornings, like a barista brewing the perfect cup. "Yeah, just how I like it, strong and slightly bitter. Just like my outlook on life," she quipped, unable to suppress a smile. "Good. I think I've got just the brew for your charming personality," he replied, rolling his eyes dramatically before leaving her room. This morning ritual had become a lifeline for her, a reminder that someone cared even when the world outside felt daunting. They both understood that family wasn't just about blood. It was about finding comfort and camaraderie in the stormy seas of life. She pulled herself out of bed, steeling herself for the day ahead. The soft hum of Jake's laughter wafted from the kitchen, a sound that sent a rush of calm through her. Bursting with determination, she made her way downstairs, the lingering sense of dread dissipating with each step. "Your coffee, milady," Jake announced grandly, presenting her with a steaming mug as if it were a priceless artifact. She chuckled, accepting it gratefully. Somehow he always managed to elevate her spirits just enough to face whatever awaited her. "Thanks, Jake." "You're the best," she said, taking a sip, the caffeine igniting a flicker of hope inside her. It felt as if the universe conspired to bring light to her dark thoughts, even on days when the clouds hung heavy in the sky. As they shared breakfast, the comfort of their banter soothed her nerves. They navigated through their usual topics, school gossip, upcoming events, and the chaotic world around them. Jake's laughter was infectious, and for a brief moment, she felt a sense of normalcy. But then, just like that, the weight of her upcoming presentation crashed down on her. "What if I mess up?" she muttered, her brows knitted in worry. Jake looked at her intently, ready to counter her spiraling thoughts. "You won't. Just remember, everyone's in the same boat, navigating the rocky waters together. They're all just as terrified as you, yeah. But I have a reputation for being that new girl, the one everyone has their eyes on," she lamented, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup as if the answer lay there. "Okay. But you're also the brilliant new girl, the one who always brings fresh ideas. You've got this," he assured her, his voice steady and convincing. It was moments like these that reinforced the unique bond they shared, forged from mutual trust and an unspoken understanding of each other's flaws and fears. Despite his confidence in her, a haunting sense of inadequacy nagged at her. With the worries swirling in her mind, she couldn't shake off the feeling that everyone was watching, waiting for her to stumble and fail. "Right. Just breathe," she whispered to herself, echoing Jake's earlier advice. After breakfast, they made their way to school. The rain had begun to lessen, but the clouds continued to loom ominously overhead, much like Sarah's ever-present anxiety. She glanced at Jake, who was humming a tune and tapping his fingers against the steering wheel, blissfully unaware of the tempest brewing in her heart. Do you think this is what adulthood feels like? Constant pressure? She pondered, breaking the silence. Honestly, kinda. But I'd argue that it's also about finding the people who lift you up through the chaos. Like this, he commented, gesturing between them as if they were cocooned in a protective bubble. His words resonated with her, echoing the importance of their relationship. In a world full of expectations and uncertainty, having someone who understood her meant everything. As they pulled into the school parking lot, she took a deep breath, steeling herself for the day ahead. The hallways were buzzing with students, laughter and chatter suffusing the air. Yet, even amidst the chaos, the weight of her anxiety felt palpable, like an impending storm ready to unleash its fury. Stepping into the building felt like entering a stage where she was expected to perform. With each footfall, her heart raced faster, thudding against her chest like a drum echoing her insecurities. She glimpsed her classmates huddled together, their laughter ringing in her ears like mocking ghosts. Just breathe, she reminded herself again, but the storm within was growing stronger, fed by her fear of judgment. Jake walked beside her, sensing her turmoil. Just focus on your words. You know your material. Just speak from the heart, he encouraged, offering a reassuring smile. As the bell rang, a wave of adrenaline surged through her. They made their way to the presentation room, her thoughts spiraling into a whirlwind of doubt. She could feel the eyes of her peers on her, their whispers swirling around her like a storm cloud. But just then, she caught Jake's eye, and in that brief moment, his unwavering support anchored her. It was as if he had cast a spell to calm the raging storm, reminding her that she wasn't alone. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, ready to face the tempest within and without. Her heart thundered, but with Jake's quiet strength beside her, she knew she could weather any storm. As she began to speak, the chaotic symphony of the world around her began to fade away. She felt not just watched but seen, and for the first time in a long while, she realized that perhaps bravery wasn't the absence of fear, but the courage to step forward into the unknown, hand in hand with those who believed in her. The unexpected tide. The moment Sarah stepped off the stage after her presentation, a wave of relief washed over her. It felt as if the storm inside her had finally calmed, but there was no time to celebrate. As she exited the room, she could feel the buzz of conversation hanging in the air like a thick fog, and the whispers made her pulse quicken once more. Did you see how nervous she was? A voice sneered behind her, slipping into her thoughts like a shadow. Yeah, but she actually pulled it off, another voice offered, though there was a hint of condescension laced in it. Sarah clenched her fists, determination battling the anxiety that threatened to creep back in. She turned to Jake, who stood waiting for her by the door, his expression a mix of pride and concern. Did you hear that? She exclaimed, her voice just above a whisper. Hear what? He asked, tilting his head, frowning at her sudden flare of frustration. The whispers. They never stop. It's like I can't escape it. She grimaced, feeling a familiar sense of isolation wash over her. Let's get out of here, he said firmly, linking his arm through hers. You've conquered the storm. Now let's celebrate. They made their way to the parking lot, the sunlight peeking through the clouds overhead, a stark contrast to the turmoil stirring within Sarah. Each step away from the building felt lighter, as if the atmosphere were shedding its weight. Where to? Jake asked as they reached the car. How about that little café you love? She suggested, desperate for a slice of normalcy and something sweet to lift her spirits. Perfect. I could use a slice of that chocolate cake, he grinned, his eyes dancing with excitement. As they drove, the city buzzed with life, the sounds of laughter, shouting children, and the distant hum of traffic. But Sarah's mind lingered on the negative words echoing between her ears. Was that really how her classmates saw her? Arriving at the café, they quickly found a corner booth, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloping them like an inviting embrace. As she sipped her drink, Sarah felt the tension in her shoulders begin to ease, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Okay, spill it. What's on your mind? Jake pressed, his brow furrowed with concern. Is it ever going to get easier? She sighed heavily, looking down into her mug. I thought things might change after the presentation, but it feels worse. I just want to blend in. Blending in isn't always the goal, you know, Jake replied, his voice firm yet gentle. Sometimes standing out is what makes you who you are. Besides, you did great up there. People might be talking, but it's a testament to your effort. His words struck a chord deep within her, and she looked up, his sincerity shining through. Do you ever feel like you're fighting a losing battle? She asked, her voice softer now. Every day, he admitted, leaning back in his seat. But I also think we need to fight for what matters. For each other. The connection sparked between them. A recognition of their shared struggles against the currents of life. Just as his gaze turned serious, Sarah felt a warmth blooming in her chest. That same protective spirit she had always admired glimmered in his eyes. But their moment was interrupted as a loud bang reverberated through the café, suddenly shattering the bubble of comfort they had created. People turned to look, startled, as a group of rowdy teens burst through the door, laughter echoing off the walls. Sarah felt her heart drop as she recognized them all familiar faces from school, the very ones who filled the halls with talk and judgment. Their rowdy energy poured through the small café like a rogue wave crashing against the shore, and Sarah instinctively sunk lower in her seat, her stomach twisting with unease. "Hey, there's the new girl," one of them hollered, and Sarah's cheeks flushed crimson. "Is it true you cried during your presentation?" Another chimed in, prompting a chorus of laughter. Jake stiffened beside her, a protective tension radiating from him. "Ignore them," he said under his breath. But the damage was done. Every word sliced through Sarah, reigniting the storm that she had only just begun to quiet. Her mind raced, battling between wanting to flee and standing firm. "I can't just sit here. I need to face this," she said, her resolve hardening. "Sarah, wait," Jake started, but she cut him off. "No, I need to do this. I can't let them think they can push me around," she insisted, steeling herself as she rose from the booth. Jake looked torn, concern etched across his features, but she didn't wait for his response. Clenching her fists and fortifying her resolve, she approached the group, each step feeling heavier than the last. "What's so funny?" she managed to ask, her voice steady despite the chaos in her heart. The laughter subsided, attention shifting to her as disbelief washed over their faces. "Look who decided to come out of the shadows," one of them jeered, smirking. "Don't you have anything better to do than pick on people who just want to get through school?" She shot back, surprising even herself with the fiery defiance in her voice. The lead instigator raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback. "Wow, didn't know you had it in you." "Still doesn't change the fact that you'll always be the new girl." Sarah gritted her teeth, feelings of anger and humiliation battling inside her. But just as she was about to retort, the most unthinkable happened. One of the girls from the group stepped forward, a girl Sarah recognized but had never spoken to. "Leave her alone," she said, surprising everyone. Her voice held authority, cutting through the tension in the air like a knife. "Who do you think you are?" the instigator shot back. But the girl stood her ground, her eyes burning with resolve. "No one has the right to belittle someone else. We've all been new once." "Get over yourselves," she declared, her voice powerful and unwavering. The group exchanged glances, unsure of how to respond, their bravado faltering in the face of unexpected opposition. "Fine. Whatever," the instigator muttered, losing interest as he turned away, leading the group out of the café. As they exited, a murmur broke among the onlookers. It felt as if a tide had shifted, a collective exhale from everyone in the café, and Sarah stood breathless, her heart racing not from panic but sheer disbelief. "Are you okay?" Jake approached cautiously, concern woven into every word. "Yeah, I think so," she replied, still processing what had just happened. The girl who had come to her defense approached, her expression surprisingly warm. "That was brave. They get tired after a while. Just don't let them bother you," she said, offering a small smile. "Thanks," Sarah murmured, touched by the unexpected kindness. As the girl turned to leave, Jake's presence was a steady anchor beside her. "You handled that really well," he said, pride lacing his tone. Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline, an exhilarating recognition of the strength she hadn't known she possessed. As they returned to their booth, she glanced at Jake, and for the first time, a flicker of self-confidence began to burn within her. Today was just a storm. But this is my life, and I'm not going to let them drown me, she declared, the words flowing from her with an unmistakable fierceness. Jake smiled, the warmth of his admiration wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. That's my girl. You're stronger than you know. With those words echoing in her mind, Sarah felt the winds of change stirring. Perhaps not all storms were meant to break her. Some were meant to help her discover who she truly was, and with Jake by her side, she was ready to navigate whatever tides lay ahead. The rising tempest as the sun dipped below the horizon the next day, casting a golden hue across the sky. Sarah felt a newfound resolve blossoming within her. The café confrontation had stirred something deep inside, a flicker of courage she had previously thought unachievable. Nonetheless, beneath that budding confidence simmered a mix of anxiety and anticipation, a sense that the storm was not yet over. Walking into school the following morning, she was acutely aware of her surroundings. Students meandered through the halls, laughter and chatter nudging at her. But this time, she stood taller, shoulders squared. With Jake by her side, she felt fortified, as if the stakes were suddenly higher. "Ready for today?" Jake asked, his usual teasing tone replaced with sincere encouragement. "More than ever," Sarah replied, a gleam of determination in her eyes. She had no plans to be a passive participant in her own life anymore. As they entered their classroom, Sarah's heart quickened. The memory of yesterday's confrontation buzzed in her mind, and though it felt empowering, it also reminded her that shadows from the past could strike again. She took her seat, intermittently glancing at her classmates, nervous energy coursing through her. A few minutes later, the teacher walked in, and the usual murmurs quieted down. "Today, we're working on team-building exercises to strengthen communication," Mr. Thompson announced, an introductory smile lighting up his face. "I need you all to form groups of 4, and I want you to tackle the trust fall exercise." Immediately, an electric hum of excitement filled the room. Sarah's stomach twisted. She had heard of these exercises before, but the idea of letting herself fall backward into someone else's arms felt overwhelmingly daunting. Just as she began to retreat into her thoughts, she felt Jake's hand rest on her shoulder. "We'll do it together," he whispered, grounding her amidst the swirling chaos of fear. The groups were formed, and Jake, sensing her tension, took the lead. "All right, let's be a team," he said, and his easy confidence calmed her stormy thoughts. The 4 of them decided to stand in a circle to discuss who would go first. As they lined up, Sarah felt the prick of uncertainty returning. Adrenaline surged through her veins, punctuating her sense of vulnerability, but she also felt the assurance of Jake's presence beside her. The trust he inspired wrapped around her like an invisible shield. "Okay, I'll go first," Jake said, his characteristic grin lighting up his face. "Everyone catch me." As he fell backward, the class held its collective breath, and in perfect synchrony, his teammates caught him easily. The class erupted in applause, and Jake bounced back to his feet, a wide smile plastered on his face. "See? Easy peasy," he teased, and Sarah couldn't help but laugh. He turned to her, his gaze encouraging. "You're next." Her heart raced, uncertain if she could replicate the ease he carried. "Maybe I'm not ready," she stammered, feeling a mixture of dread and excitement. "You are," Jake said firmly. "Just trust me." With butterflies in her stomach, she reluctantly agreed, positioning herself on the marked spot. As she prepared to let go, she took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her decision. "Here goes nothing," she muttered, aligning herself over her peers. "Just focus on the sound of my voice." "Breathe," Jake instructed, his voice cutting through the anxious haze enveloping her. Without further hesitation, she took a leap of faith, allowing herself to lean back. As she fell, her heart dropped. But something miraculous happened. She felt solid hands gripping her arms, lifting her back to her feet. "See? You did it," Jake exclaimed, pride shining in his eyes. Sarah's cheeks flushed with a mixture of relief and triumph. "That wasn't so bad," she laughed, exhilaration coursing through her. The intimacy of the moment, the trust she placed in her classmates, and especially in Jake was liberating. The exercise continued, each round revealing more about themselves, the laughter thawing the ice of uncertainty. But just as they began to revel in the unity of their experience, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room, pulling Sarah's attention away. Each head turned to see one of the louder boys accidentally knock over a desk as he tried to catch his teammate. Laughter erupted, but the boy, visibly embarrassed, fought to mask his humiliation. Sarah's heart sank seeing the boy's face darken, and the laughter around him quickly shifted to snickers. "Hey, that's okay," she called out, stepping forward. "Accidents happen. No need to feel worse about it." Venomous laughter bubbled up from someone in the back, a girl Sarah had recognized but never engaged with. "What a loser. Can't even catch a desk." The boy's cheeks reddened, and for a moment, Sarah's heart ached at the familiarity of the bullying. "Why don't you try to be nicer?" she said firmly, tension radiating from her. Jake stepped beside her, his brows knitted, ready to diffuse the rising tension. "Guys, let's keep it positive. We're supposed to be building trust, not tearing each other down," he added, his tone calm yet steady. The girls sneered but said nothing further, and with a shared glance, Sarah and Jake silently acknowledged their pact to stand firm against negativity. The day wore on with newfound camaraderie, but the thought of being an active target loomed in Sarah's mind. Even in moments of triumph, shadows from her past clawed at her consciousness, dredging up familiar insecurities. Later that afternoon, as they moved to the gym for physical education, Sarah awaited the inevitable tension from the group of friends who often preyed on vulnerabilities. Jake squeezed her hand gently as if to say, "We can handle this." But just as they entered the gymnasium, he whispered, "Stay close." The caution in his voice stoked her adrenaline. She watched the group from the distance, loud, carefree, almost menacing, and the laughter around them felt like a barrier isolating her once more. As the instructor announced a game of team volleyball, Sarah steeled herself. But as fate would have it, the game drew nearer, and as Sarah's team assembled, their adversaries took their places on the other side of the net. "Let's show them who's boss," a member of the rival team shouted, eyeing Sarah with evident disdain. A ripple of nervousness ran through her. The game began, and Sarah felt her anxiety spike with each serve. The ball flew over the net, and the opposing team laughed as they scored point after point. Each cheery cheer pushed a dagger deeper into her heart. She glanced at Jake, whose eyes burnt with determination as he rallied their teammates, but her confidence waned. "Come on, Sarah. Get your head in the game!" Jake shouted from across the court, fueling her resolve. With grit, Sarah pushed through her nerves, but as the game continued, every block was met with taunts. "Watch out for the new girl. Bet she'll run away with the ball again," someone hollered. Jeers echoed in her ears, and frustration flared. Sarah could feel the walls closing in, her heart thundering in response. Suddenly the ball was flying toward her, and for a split second time slowed down. Growing up, she had always been the one to back down, the one to retreat when faced with challenge. But this time, she made a decision to stand firm. With newfound resilience, she leapt into action, her arms extended as she hit the ball with a fervor she had never known before. The impact felt electrifying, coursing through her with fierce intensity, and the ball sailed over the net, striking squarely in the center of the opposing team's court. Silence enveloped the gym for a moment, then erupted into chaotic cheering. Sarah's cheeks burned with excitement and disbelief. "Nice shot," Jake roared, his voice breaking through the exhilaration. The tide began to shift. With every point they scored, her teammates rallied behind her, and for the first time, Sarah felt a surge of camaraderie crashing over her like a tidal wave. She was no longer the new girl, she was a part of something larger, and everyone was watching her rally. But the moment flickered like a candle in the wind when Jake collided with one of the opposing players. A thud knocked both of them to the ground, and the resounding silence fell heavy once more. "Jake!" Sarah rushed toward him, panic tightening her throat. "Are you okay?" He groaned, wiping dirt off his knee. "I think I rolled my ankle," he grunted, putting more weight on his uninjured leg. "Guys, let's clear the way," someone called as student leadership rushed forward. Helping Jake to his feet, Can you walk? Sarah pressed, heart pounding. I'll be fine. Just need to shake it off, he assured her, though concern lingered in his eyes. Suddenly, the voices around them dropped away, and as they made their way back to the sidelines, Sarah felt a heavy layer of unease settle back in. Here they were, standing together through thick and thin, but the uncertainty of her newfound strength hovered like an unsteady tide. Let's get you looked at, Sarah urged, still feeling the weight of unpredictability in the air. As they left the gym, she turned to Jake, the source of her hidden courage. Today had brought moments of triumph, but fear of vulnerability still pulsed within her. I'm glad you're okay, she whispered, the sincerity threading through her words. Nothing a little rest can't fix, he smiled, though the lingering intensity shone in his eyes. And you were incredible out there. But as they exited through the gym doors, Sarah couldn't shake the sense that the storm was far from over. The blood of camaraderie mixed with insecurity in the air as the remnants of the day simmered, hinting at language yet to be spoken. Surging ahead, they stepped into the next chapter of uncertainty, leaning on each other as the tide silently turned. Together, they would face whatever tempest sought to drown them in the days ahead. With Jake beside her, Sarah steeled herself, ready to confront the rising wave, the unfolding secrets. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity. Sarah found herself caught between the energy of newfound confidence and the uncertainty that ebbed and flowed like the tides. Every laugh and cheer from her peers felt like another endorsement of her resilience, but within the echoes of encouragement lay an unshakable sense of anxiety. After all, this was just the calm before the storm. Jake's ankle had taken a few days to heal, yet his spirits remained high. And as they moved through the school week, the bond between them deepened. They walked side by side in the hallways, a united front against the scrutinizing gazes of the other students. With each shared moment, it became more apparent that the connection between them was evolving subtle, yet undeniable. One afternoon, while studying together in the library, Sarah noticed Jake staring at her intently, his usual playful grin replaced by a solemnity that drew her in. "What's up?" she asked, her heart racing. "I was just thinking. About us, about everything," he said carefully. "You know, things have changed since we started this whole journey together." A shiver ran down her spine at his words. "You mean us being step-siblings, or—" She trailed off, hesitant to give voice to what lay unspoken. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I mean more than that. I've always felt like there's a connection between us that goes beyond just family." The air between them thickened, laden with unspoken emotions. The world around them faded away, and for an electric moment, time itself seemed to pause. "You feel it too?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yeah," he replied, his honesty like sunlight breaking through a fog. "And I think we need to address it before it grows into something unmanageable." Just as she was about to respond, the library door slammed open, and a girl stormed in. For a brief moment, Sarah's heart dropped as she recognized the newcomer Claire, the girl who had been at the center of the taunts and jeers during PE. "Sarah! There you are!" Claire exclaimed, marching toward them. "You need to come. Now." Confusion washed over Sarah as she exchanged glances with Jake. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to remain calm. "It's about the group project," Claire explained, her eyes darting nervously. "There's been a situation. You need to see this." Intrigued and apprehensive, Sarah nodded and followed Claire, with Jake stepping in beside her. Their shared glance spoke volumes. They were both skeptical, yet unable to resist the pull of curiosity. As they made their way through the hall, the tension crackled in the air, and Claire led them outside to a small crowd forming around the lockers. Sarah's stomach twisted in knots. She sensed something brewing that would certainly disrupt the peace they had clawed back. "What is all this?" Jake asked, scanning the scene. "Just wait," Claire urged, urgency thrumming in her voice. As they reached the front of the crowd, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Unbeknownst to her, a poster adorned with her name had been taped to the side of the lockers, a caricature of her likeness, complete with exaggerated features, words scrawled in bold letters beneath. "The Fall Girl." Gasps echoed around the circle, and Sarah felt her heart plummet. Anger boiled within her as whispers began to circle the group. "Look, it's the trust fall queen," someone snickered from the back. "Can't even do a simple exercise, right?" Another added. Jake stepped in front of her, his protective instincts kicking into high gear. But Sarah felt like she could challenge the storm this time. "Who did this?" she shouted, steadying her voice against unrelenting waves of humiliation. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, but the shock of the poster seemed to crack their defenses. "We all know it was Samantha," someone mumbled. The name resonated painfully. Samantha Miller-Loud, imposing and ever ready for a bout of mockery. Sarah narrowed her eyes, her resolve sharpening. "Are we really back to this? Haven't we matured?" she called out, frustration creeping in. "Making fun of each other like this only shows we're afraid of who we really are. If you hate me so much, just say it to my face." A few startled gasps rippled through the group, but her words hung in the air, making the crowd shift uneasily. "Come on, Sarah," Claire chimed in, her voice shaky but emboldened. "You're better than this. We're trying to make a change." The moment stretched, vulnerable and raw, vibrating with unspoken emotions. Jake stepped closer to Sarah, their shoulders brushing, grounding her with his silence. Just as the atmosphere began to shift, a familiar figure stepped out from the crowd, the very person Sarah had hoped would stay out of sight. Samantha. "What's wrong, fall girl? Can't take a joke?" Her voice dripped with mockery and fury bubbled beneath Sarah's cool facade. "Maybe we should all learn to grow up, Samantha," Sarah shot back, her voice unwavering. "Bullying isn't a sign of strength. It's a display of insecurity," the crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement. But Samantha laughed, as if the truth rebounded off her. "Oh, is that right? Who's insecure now, huh? Maybe it's time to take a little more of that falling lesson to heart." Ignoring the taunts, Sarah felt the energy shift again. She turned back toward her classmates, searching for their gazes. "Believe it or not, we could lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. Aren't we tired of this game?" Another voice piped up. "Yeah, we could all use a little more kindness." Jake leaned toward her, eyes wide with pride and astonishment. "See? This is what it's about, Sarah. Just stand strong." Suddenly, momentum surged in her favor. People began mingling, inching closer, nodding, and offering shared expressions of empathy toward their fellow classmates. Even Claire joined in, lending her support openly. Samantha's bravado dimmed, uncertainty flickering across her features. "Tch, an idea like that will never change anything," she scoffed, but a crack in her facade revealed her doubt. "Maybe not by ourselves, but together with kindness and strength we can." Sarah's voice rang out, emboldened by the energy around her. Just then, the bell rang, dissolving the moment into a chaotic blend of shuffling feet and hurried students, but Sarah felt a surge of triumph as she caught Jake's approving smile. "Did you see that?" he exclaimed as students began dispersing. "You were incredible. I wish I could fight that hard." "Thanks," she replied, adrenaline still coursing through her, "but we both know this isn't over." As they walked back to class together, a sense of accomplishment hung heavy in the air, mingled with the anticipation of what lay ahead. But that night, just as the remnants of adrenaline settled, something unsettling gnawed at Sarah's gut. She couldn't shake the feeling that Samantha would retaliate. Bullying always escalated. The next day, Sarah arrived at school early, the hallways devoid of the usual chaos. As she approached her locker, she froze, the air thick with tension. She spotted a glimmer of something shiny taped to her locker door, and her heart sank. Another poster, stark and menacing. A photograph of her, taken as she walked awkwardly during the gym class showcase. Her expression caught mid-stumble, the width of the letters larger than life. "The girl who can't stand." Rallying her courage, she ripped the poster off her locker and crumpled it in her fists. Just as she turned to face the empty hall, suddenly the noise resonated, feet thundering, laughter erupting. "Look who it is!" A voice shouted, one belonging to none other than Samantha, accompanied by her entourage. "I thought you'd gone into hiding, fall girl," Samantha sneered, her approach sharp and predatory. A group of students emerged behind her, forming an inescapable wall of noise as they cackled at nearly every word spoken. Fear twisted Sarah's stomach, But she recalled the energy from yesterday's encounter. This time they were not just classmates. They were allies she could lean on. "Just stop," she shouted, her voice breaking through the cacophony. "You're not doing anything worth being proud of. You can tear me down all you want. It won't change who I am." Samantha's smugness faltered, confusion flickering in her eyes as whispers surged among the crowd. "Let's see how long that confidence lasts," Samantha yelled back, but her voice quavered, barely holding on to the once commanding bravado. Sensing an opening, Sarah seized the moment. "We cannot be defined by the negativity that surrounds us. If you can't lift someone up, then don't bother bringing them down." And with that, the tide began to shift. Ripples of agreement spread through the gathered students. Someone near the back hollered, "You tell her!" In that instant, something remarkable emerged, a wave of unity as students rallied behind Sarah. Encouragement surged forth, washing away the tension as they stood together against Samantha's relentless mockery. With the balance tipping in her favor, Sarah felt a growing surge of confidence course through her. Though the fight was far from over, the communal energy marked a new chapter, solidifying her sense of belonging among her peers. Glancing at Jake, their eyes met in a moment of shared triumph, a world of support contained in a single gaze. As Samantha stepped back, the crowd began to dissolve, the strength of Sarah's resolve illuminating the path forward. And though uncertainty lingered, she felt empowered, knowing she could face whatever storms were yet to come. Rising from this confrontation, she knew one thing. She would never again let anyone define the skies she chose to navigate. She was Sarah, standing resilient and ready to embrace whatever awaited her next.